Well, here in our junk garden, most of the plants have been growing quite rampantly, and I wanted to come back and take a look at some of the vines that we saw earlier in the season and see how they're growing. Well, this first vine right here that's really almost covering this entire arbor is the silver lace vine. And you'll remember I told you it was a pretty rampant grower, and it is well on its way to covering this entire arbor. The other great thing about it is if you look in here, we've still got several of the flowers, those nice white flowers that give it the silver lace vine name. And so it has done very well. In fact, we've even had to cut it back right here. Now, if you look underneath here, you can also see another interesting part. We have some very pretty bark that's developed here on the older growth from the beginning of the season. Now, at the end of the year, actually this next spring, we can cut this back considerably. We could even cut it back to the ground and let it grow, or we can cut it back to some of this older growth and let it regrow. We could also just leave it. However, it might actually bring our structure down if we let it grow too large. So we'll probably cut it back quite a bit. Well, another one of our vines that has grown quite a bit since we saw it last is the hop vine. And you can see here that it has been very happy where we planted it. Now, we were a little worried about that because hops generally like temperatures that are cooler than what we get here in Oklahoma. But here in the shade, and we had a lot of organic matter in the soil, it's done very well. And hops, in their environment that they like the most, can actually grow about a foot a day. And this has done quite well because it was just a tiny little vine when we planted it. The other thing that we've got on here is we actually have hops developing. And hops are what are used to flavor and give the aroma to beer. And the part that's harvested for that is just this little pine cone. It looks like a pine cone right here. Those are harvested and then dried and used in making beer. So that's what a hop is, which I never knew that until I went out to Idaho and Oregon. I never knew what a hop was. Now, this is the golden hops, and remember I told you that the new growth on this is, again, that golden color. However, if you look at the older growth, it tends to lose that gold. These are just kind of regular green, whereas the new growth, and it's a nice contrast between the two. However, if you want a gold vine, this probably isn't going to stay gold all summer because as the growth gets older, it will turn green. Now, that is a perennial vine, so we will actually cut that off after frost, probably at ground level, mulch the crown, and then it will grow again for us next season. Now, here in our flower bed, we've actually cut the begonias back because we're going to let them get another flush of growth here before the frost. So this should snap out of it and be looking very good in the next few weeks. And one of our other vines that has done quite well is the cypress vine, or cardinal climber. And you'll remember it was just starting to cover this trellis when we saw it last, and now it looks like Cousin It. And it is beautiful, and this foliage, you kind of want to pet it because it is so soft. But this vine has even been through a hard time because it blew over. It's still grown and has done a very good job of covering.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.